Everyone. Sorry about that little scrobbling at the end there. Just grabbed the wrong wheel. So, welcome to the Coffee Break Chat. I'm your host, James Jackson. And on screen, you should see LaNeshe Miller-White and Cheryl Brown-Lewis. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Oh, you know what? And I just realized I don't have my correct microphone selected, so nobody heard me, but you guys. So let's see, what do I need to do here? I need to switch microphones. But LaNeshe, if you would introduce yourself and your pronouns and tell us who you are and what you're doing. Yep, that sure does. Still don't have my microphone. And hang on one second. I'll fix this. All right. Need to add a mic. So joys of not working at home. All right, so I'm back with audio. So good morning, everyone. Sorry for that temporary lack of audio from me. I know you guys all got the introduction from LaNeshe Miller-White here, and I'm glad to be with you as well. And for those who've watched the broadcast before, we have Cheryl Brown-Lewis. Please introduce yourself and your pronouns and who you are. Awesome. So, um, so as I was saying to the folks who could hear me, who are on in the actual room with me, I'm James Jackson. I'm your host. He, they pronouns, and this is the Coffee Break Chat every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Um, and I just like to go through a few things. We have our special guests, so we'll start there. And Facebook and YouTube can only hear you. How about now? And so, LaNeshe, if you would just tell us about, I know you have a new position and you're probably sick of talking about it by now, but we haven't talked about it on this show. So tell us about your position at the Theater Alliance.
Person award events in the fall that recognizes the theater season of the year before.
And so that provides both like recognition and awards. So we
A lot of just marketing and promotion. We do a lot of press on behalf of theater companies and artists. So outside of the Barrymore Awards, we also have a program called Theater Week, which we are 3 years into, which is a concentrated 10-day, almost like a festival of theater in Philadelphia. So it can be productions. There can also be like open rehearsals and talks and any other kind of like theater related content that happens in this like 10-day time span. And so we're able to get like a lot of press eyes on it and a lot of energy around it. And so all of those tickets are either $0, $15, or $30, also to be able to create access to theater within that program as well. And so we're looking at what Theater Week can look like for this year, since there probably in February won't be many in-person live events. And then we also are, in lieu of the Barrymores for this year, we're having just a virtual celebration and gathering on November 16th. So it'll be the first.
That would be like a pre-recorded kind of retrospective of both
the amazing work that artists and organizations were doing as they pivoted to like digital work and non-traditional work, as well as like the things that artists were doing around advocacy, whether it was with the city budget or with Black Lives Matter, and the work that folks were doing around that as well. So that'll be on the 16th. So like a first pre-recorded thing, kind of like looking back at the last season. And then there'll be like a choose your own adventure
something after. We'll have three different zones.
kind of 3 different like activities and vibes people can choose from to actually like engage with people and be social. So that should be fun. We also have an emergency relief program that is still going on that launched shortly after the pandemic started. So if anyone has lost any money related to theater, you can apply for sliding scale $300 to $500 small grants to help support you in like paying your bills or whatever you need to do in this time from those lost wages. And that's not just performers, that can be directors, playwrights, any income that's associated with theater. So if you had a cleaning company and were cleaning theaters and now you're losing money, that's still eligible. Anyone who had a job that was connected to the theater, essentially. Um, what else? Yeah, that's kind of it. We're an organization for marketing and promoting theater. So that was an interesting place to step into in the middle of a pandemic. So just like we're looking at any ways that we can promote like the virtual and non-traditional work that is happening right now.
Awesome. Um, so yeah, I'm having technical difficulties this morning as my associate producer is letting me know.
No,
Um,
no.
this, but I think I got it all fixed. My audio might not be too great because it's coming in through this little mic on my the side of my head, but you guys should sound okay. And thank you for introducing. Theater Philadelphia and all the things that you do for the theater and performance art community. It's amazing. Um, you do a lot of work. Um, and it's always very impressive to hear you talk about it. I don't know how
Thank
you have all the
you.
time. And you have a child, and you work in theater. In addition to that, you produce for Theater in the X, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So, yeah, it's amazing. What has Theater in the X been doing to pivot since the beginning of the coronavirus?
Yeah, so the first thing we did was probably like a month in, we did a virtual reading of a show called Viv is for Vengeance, which was really fun. It's essentially Euripides' Medea set on the cast of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, with the moment in time being when they made the Aunt Viv switch. So that is like where we are in the story, which was really fun and kind of got me like honestly got me out of like the funk that I was in. Like, so like the pandemic hit and everyone started doing virtual stuff and I was just like over it. And then the team was like, regular life. But it ended up being like really fun to do and then really fun for the audience. So that was like the first program that we did. And so we were supposed to, so if you don't know about Theater in the Acts, our biggest program is an outdoor theater production in August in Malcolm X Park. And so we had planned to present Zoom In and the Sign, as well as an original devised piece called the West Philly Play. So we'd actually been working for a year to like devise this piece for August, doing a lot of community conversations and work with the community in West Philadelphia to like figure out the content. And we were like basically right about to like start production mode, and then pandemic hit. So the West Philly play will be next August, in August of 2021. So this summer, what we ended up doing in lieu of like that regular big performance in Malcolm X Park is that we partner with the city's Philly Play Streets program, which blocks off certain blocks in neighborhoods for children to like play, and they give them lunches and have like some other programs of entertainment. So we were able to do like 8 performances on 8 different blocks in West Philly throughout the summer of essentially a dramatic story time. So the show is called Sense Past King, and it's basically about a little girl who is smarter than a king, and ends up like being the king at the end, and she's like very witty. So how we did it was essentially everyone wore masks, and then I was the narrator, so I was the only one speaking, and I just had like a little personal like amplification device. And so everyone else was just acting out as I was talking, so to like limit talking and masks and all that. So yeah, we just all had masks on. I did narration, we acted it out, and the kids loved it. And so that was like a nice kind of like summer activity to still be able to like do some little performances, be out there like for the kids. So that was really nice also. And so our next thing is actually it's called Twisted Tales. It's going to be on October 29th, I think, the Thursday before Halloween, which is a couple of short stories, either from like African folklore or like Black folklore, that are like, some are a little scary, some are a little sweet, but it's like a nice little kind of compilation of 4 stories that we'll be putting out like for Halloween time. So that should be fun. We already recorded it, so I'm like working on editing and putting stuff together for that now. So we did it similar to the way we did Vivis for Vengeance. We recorded it over Zoom, and then I kind of go in and add like some sounds and effects and things to like amp up the production quality, since it's like we're sitting on Zoom and performing. That will be really exciting. So that will be on Facebook Live. I'm pretty sure it's the 29th. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Audio problems. They are typically free to attend, if I remember correct.
Yep.
Yes, and so Theater in the X does live production for the community of West Philadelphia, and provides a lot of opportunity for children, young adults, whoever would like to attend to see live theater in a new setting. Cool. Um, and so really looking forward to seeing the new pieces. Are is the other one that you just mentioned, is that available on live stream, or like on replay?
The Vivis Vengeance.
Yeah.
I think it is still up on our Facebook page videos, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it is.
Awesome. Awesome. So
Yeah.
that's one of the interesting things about the pandemic, that we the theater community in Philadelphia has kind of been like touching on, but not really like biting into, is that all of this content is being produced, and it's existing in a recorded format on the internet, Um, and you know, just now, like initially everyone was like, "Oh, I really want to do a project so I can get out of this funk that you mentioned." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's just do something, right? And then uh I'm on the board of the Philadelphia Dramatist Center, and so some of the questions are coming starting to come up around copyright and production rights and replay rights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting because uh, those considerations have never been huge before in the live event community. Like most of the contracts that you sign with writers and or actors preclude you from recording the performance before the pandemic, and now we're just recording it by default because that's what
The only thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I've been as a member of that board, and as a producer myself who works in I worked in video production, and for live event production I've never really worried about recordings or anything like that. It was always about live event, and so what do we do now? Like these uh, these questions of copyright and intellectual property are complex, and we've never really settled them in the live event space. So now we're you know uh, having these negotiations behind the scenes. So if people are wondering why like why it might be hard for a bunch of theater makers to just transition to doing video
Yeah.
video on demand. This is why.
The
Um,
union issues, like in itself, is a big quagmire that needs to be figured out too. It's tough.
it is. It's insane. And so like I was just you know having produced before for live theater, you typically give the writer a lump sum of money, and it's for it's based on how many potential ticket sales you have and blah blah blah. Um, and the the interesting thing is, just in recently, I did a 24-hour festival, the live theater festival, but it was live on Zoom, and so now there's questions cropping up about by the writers about, well, can I use this recording? And we had initially agreed to release all the videos under Creative Commons, but if we as the producers don't have the rights to the intellectual property of the script in perpetuity, we can't release it under Creative Commons because then we're stepping on the writer's copyright. So,
Yeah.
and then the some of the writers are coming back to us and being like, well, I don't want to give you rights in perpetuity. I don't want you to be able to reproduce this. And we're like, no, we don't want to reproduce it, and we'll be happy to write that into the contract or whatever, but we just need to be able to release this Creative Commons, and so it's going back and forth along that lines. um, but yeah. Cheryl, have I know you've done like networking events and stuff before. What like I don't suppose you're doing them right now, but
No, and we were planning to do like a virtual one, where we were going to do like a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams. But it was kind of one of those things of what do you do about um, like people calling in and being able to collectively be able to mute mics in the background and let the speaker speak. I mean, we had enough problems with that live where speakers were speaking on stage. You have a whole bunch of people who are networking and talking and haven't seen each other or worked on a project, and they're all talking at the same time. And then how do you let so many people into the Zoom meeting or whatever we chose to pick and ask questions. I think your platform here kind of like, was kind of what we were going to do, like stream it live, but then have them ask questions on Facebook or something and then moderate it that way. But we kind of, when the civil unrest started, all those talks about doing an event kind of fell to the wayside.
Yeah, I've been preaching, like, live event security as far as on Zoom or whatever other platform you choose to use, just because it's kind of difficult. It's a lot more difficult than people realize, and so a lot of people are getting a crash course in it just by doing it themselves. I mean, it's a shame. Hey, I'm out here. I can consult. I can help.
Right.
I'm definitely going to be hitting you up about Twisted Tales and how to make that work.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
getting Zoom bombed is not fun. And it's like one of those things of like, for our networking events, we publicly, promoted on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. So you have people who are just nothing else to do but to, Zoom bomb you.
Yep. So, just moving on to today's topics, the big headline, aside from having our special guest, was the events of the past week around Ice Cube getting played. At least I think he got played. I don't know how you all feel.
I
Wear
need an
my Ice Cube
update.
shirt.
Oh no.
What's your shirt today?
Gotta check yourself. The back says before you wreck yourself. But he did get played. He did.
I need a catch-up summary. Like I've seen people talking about it, but what happened?
All right, so catch up summary. Ice Cube, about 6 months ago, created the contract with Black America. It was his non-professional, because he's not a politician, but he's a relatively smart guy. I don't have any issues with his smarts or him expressing his opinion. But he's not a politician, so he doesn't have a huge basis in understanding the intricacies of national policy. But he proposed a contract with Black America. It included things like defunding the police, providing money for housing, and providing money for the unemployed, ending the school to prison pipeline, etc. All good things. Didn't address a few key issues that are addressed in some other texts that are out there. And so he got in touch with leadership in both campaigns, the Republican campaign and the Democratic campaign. And he offered to meet with the candidates and talk about the contract with Black America and what he would like to see happen as a result of ongoing elections, and see a future for Black America and see us prosper. So the Biden campaign, well, both campaigns really basically said the same thing. Both campaigns said, well, this looks really nice. Here's what we're already doing in our campaign that's similar. Let's take a look at your contract with Black America after the election and see if we can implement any of these policies. The difference between the two campaigns is the Biden campaign did that all via like text and phone call, and the Trump campaign actually invited Ice Cube to the White House to talk to campaign staffers. I don't believe he got the opportunity to speak with Trump, but anyway, so Ice Cube then, right after the meeting with the Trump campaign, tweeted that those facts, kind of out of context, on Twitter, because Twitter is out of context. Like you only have 240
Yeah, I think
characters.
what I saw was him being like, I sent it to both of them, and only the Republicans did anything about it or said they would do anything about it.
Right.
So I see here the true story.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
like the true story. If you have more than 240 characters to tell it, the true story is
Right.
like the Biden campaign. If you look at the Biden campaign's website, has points that match all of the points of the contract with Black America, but they're more in depth and they cover more things. So, for example, instead of just being about defunding the police, it's about how to change the police into something that can help communities rather than just, and defund the police is a great tagline. I've used it myself. It's a great idea. We do need to defund the police, but as a politician, you can't just say defund the police. You're going to scare all the white people.
Exactly.
So so anyway, yeah, I mean, we need to defund police, but we need to do it in an intelligent manner, not just cut their budget and then go, oh, okay, now that everything's on fire, how are we going to solve this? Not
Yeah,
that
and
everything's not on fire already, but
right. And I think where Ice Cube kind of got messed up was, they looked at it as he was basically putting all of his eggs in a basket with Trump because they actually said they were going to meet with them. And when he's like, he came back later on, was like, no, like I'm not, endorsing him in any way. I'm just saying that they were the ones that listened right now. And I can see why Biden didn't, exactly say like, okay, let's talk about this right now, because he's not in office to do anything about it.
Yeah. And
like he doesn't even actually hold any office at this point. He's not a senator of Delaware anymore. He's not like in a position to be like, okay, even if I'm not president, I'll still help you with this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird.
The timing and also like, yeah, and the got played part comes in as being like, you realize this was a strategic move. It was like two things. Like one is like, they have like a whole staff. They're in the White House. Like the ability for them to have someone who can talk to you right now is greater. But then also like you did exactly what they wanted you to do, would be like,
oh, look, they talked to me and their camp didn't talk to you. And look how we're trying to help the Blacks with their problems. Instead of not being white supremacist. But
I think the biggest problem with this is the number of people on social media, the number of Black people on social media who really bought into this. And you
have to be careful. Because again, yeah, it's Twitter. So someone sees a soundbite and they run off, and now they're like, the Republicans are helping the Black people more. Like,
right. And see, this is what they're doing for you.
Exactly. Careful with the platform and how you're using this. Because even if now, if we're trying to backtrack it, there's already people who already internalized that, and that's the story they have now.
Right.
Right. And yeah, and telling that story, like, no matter how much you elaborate that story now, it's the story that you let off with. Like,
right.
Trump campaign met with him and Biden campaign didn't. No.
And no matter how many times in the past 6 months he's walked up that plan on, Twitter or even, Instagram. He was on Red Talk Table with Jada Pinkett Smith before he, presented this to the candidates. No matter how much of that information is out there now, people are always going to look at that one tweet.
Yep. So, yeah, it's interesting. So the title, Wagging the Dog, the subtitle, Wagging the Dog or the Tail, like it's interesting that this is one of the few examples of the dog wagging the tail. Like there was no. Ice Cube was trying to wag the dog because
right.
He's the unpowerful one in the situation, but he definitely got used. So at least in my perspective, and that's
like what why? Like nothing has even happened yet. Like you had a meeting. Like, okay. I mean, maybe he was feeling some type of way that he didn't get a meeting with the Biden campaign. So it's just like, that's why he's sharing it. I don't know.
Right. And he's probably saying, yeah, like this is why we shouldn't vote just, straight Democratic, because they're not even trying to help us either. But it's kind of crazy. I mean, like he went from 2 years ago having a song called Arrest the President to like, and they call it working with his campaign, but he really wasn't working with his campaign. He's like literally presenting an idea. It's not like they put him on some board of anything. And now he's leading, the movement to free us from, poverty or anything. But, it's kind of, it's going to take a lot to get him out of that right now.
Well, and then we get into like the idea of negotiation. Like, there's no negotiating with terrorists. Like the
right.
they always say that in the movies, and as public policy, you can't negotiate with terrorists. Well, this is why you can't negotiate with terrorists. The world that the Trump campaign has created for itself is incongruous with what the rest of us experience as reality.
Right. And cancel culture is like super like gung-ho about like, oh, we're canceling him, we're canceling everybody. You got to look at, the body of work and the truth behind it.
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know what. It's disheartening. It's disheartening to see so many people fall prey to what has always been Trump's strong point, which is really media control. And I think that's one of the things that always surprised me when he started on his anti-media campaign, because he's always been about using the media for his own purposes.
Full page ads.
Yeah. And so, for him to be anti-media seems counterintuitive, but I suppose it's not really counterintuitive. He doesn't like media that he doesn't control, I think, is the problem.
And he was able to set up from the beginning, like this concept of fake news that then allows his supporters to not believe anything they don't want to believe. Like he, from the very beginning, set up this thing where it's like, the media is biased against me. So anything you see that is saying something counter to what I'm saying is fake news. Like he solidified that very early on.
It's just not going to work. You just can't negotiate with them. And there's an element of believe people the first time they show you who they are. I feel, maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like the Trump campaign and Republicans in general have really shown us who they are. Like they've made it blatantly clear. They've done it multiple times. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some local Republicans that I've worked with, and I still have a difficult time working with them because again, the worldview that's been created around the Republican Party is just counter to what I experience as a person of color in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and their ability to be okay with racism, homophobic, ideas, like all of that. They're supposed to be the party of morals or whatever, but they have none. Like they're so hypocritical. It's kind of like, I don't even know how anybody could at this point be like, oh, well, but they're against abortion. So that's fine. I can live with all that other stuff. But I think that every life should live, even if it's in poverty or locked in a cage.
Yeah.
So, my mom and I'm out at my mom's place That's why it was so dark outside at the beginning of this broadcast, and why I'm not set up with my normal setup. Um, we were doing predictions for the election, and everybody's a little bit nervous about the election.
Mhm.
What uh, what do you guys see as happening? Um, Win, lose, or close election.
I mean, I try not to think about it almost because it's very stressful, right? It's like I can't imagine like if he wins, it if Trump wins, it'll be such a like I will feel personally affronted by the majority of America. Like I will feel like you really don't care about me. Like you really, really don't. And I think like what's different about this time than last time. I mean, we all got blindsided last time, right? But
Yeah.
we like because I think there were so many folks that were just like, there's no way he can win. Like the priority in voting wasn't there. Like even a person who like would have gone and voted and like wanted to vote for Hillary, like something happened at work and they're like, I don't need to. Like she's going against Donald Trump, like it's cool, it's all gonna be fine. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping my real hope is that like people realize we got stuck with him for 4 years. He clearly can actually win. Like, please go and vote. This is not a joke anymore. Like, I wasn't as like heartbroken as many that last time. Like, I think we all got fooled. We all got fooled. This time, if people, especially after 4 years of him, like, if there is a majority of people who believe he should be the president, like, I'm I'm heartbroken at this country. Like, you've seen him. He has shown you now who he is. And if there is still support for him, enough for him to win again, like, that's going to be very tough. It's going to be very tough.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad we're
it's
close to it
it's
almost
crazy.
being over. It's just very stressful.
It is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Like, I took off of work a half day on voting day. I was going to go to the polls, but I mailed in my ballot. But I took off the whole day the next day because I don't know what kind of recuperation I need at this point. Like, am I like, and I have a big bottle of, Lamborghini wine that either going to be celebration or commiserate. Like, one way or another, I might be drunk on that next day. And kind of, like I do feel like if he gets voted in again, it's like y'all really don't care about lives. Like you don't care about me, you don't care about my friends, you don't care about my family. And we did get blindsided the last time, and at this point, and it's really, really weird, all the stories that have come out about people who are voting for the first time in their lives, and they're older than me. Shaq said it was his first time. And I can understand when he was playing in the NBA. Okay, maybe you had a game that was out of town and you couldn't get your mail-in ballot and you just figured, oh, life is good for me. I've got millions of dollars. But now, you're in your 50s and you're like, probably should vote. Like you got people who are voting for the first time ever. Unfortunately, it's also on the Republican side where people who have never voted before that are like, nope, we have to keep Trump in house because otherwise my whole entire lifestyle is for whatever reason at stake. Which is, not the case. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm terrified that no matter who wins, there's going to be riots. There's going to be gunfire and there's going to be death.
That's
Well,
another thing.
yeah, that was my concern too. Not that I would say that voting doesn't matter, because voting does matter. And the thing that people bring up all the time is if voting didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to like make your vote count the way that they want it to.
Mm-hmm.
So voting does matter, folks. Go out and vote for what you believe, vote for what you care about. um, don't think that voting doesn't matter just because we're talking about an election. We're talking about the politics around counting those votes, not whether or not those votes matter. And those votes matter because, you know, for what it's worth, even most Republican politicians would agree that the voice of the people is paramount. And so if you have a clear count that shows that they don't or do want that we the people do or don't want something, that you have to kind of follow that voice. So my concern though is that Trump himself and most of the key players in the Trump administration don't understand democracy in the least. They don't understand even our participatory democracy, our republic. They only understand things from the perspective of a capitalist, a person who runs a corporation. And that's a totalitarian dictatorship. I can tell you, just because I am a totalitarian dictator, with my own company. I was on another vlog the other day talking about kind of the idea of being able to change how a company is organized, and moving more towards like a social organization for a company. What was interesting is the interviewer didn't know I ran a collective studio, which is a socialist organization for a company. I ran a group photo studio, where all the participants had equal say in everything that happened, contributed equally to bills, and were able to use the space at their leisure. And so we talked about the successes and failures of that. But yeah, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but the Trump administration just doesn't understand things from the perspective of voting, like of people voicing their opinion. And that's what worries me the most, is that even in the case of a landslide victory for Biden, that there are definitely going to be legal challenges to votes. There are definitely going to be legal challenges to whether or not electors can be told to vote one way or another. It's just going to be a quagmire. The only way this ends quickly is if Biden loses in a landslide. If Biden loses in a landslide, he's going to be a proper politician, and he's going to say, "Okay, I lost." But we're going to be going into December before we even remotely figure out like who's the winner.
That's the thing too.
Right.
I feel like it's not going to be over. Like, it's not going to be over even the day after.
Even into January, when it's time for someone to move out, and they're going to be like, no, we need a recount. We got to throw away all those absentee ballots. Then there's going to be something about China. There's always going to be something that he's going to use legally, like he's always done in his businesses, to say that he's a winner, even though he's not. Like, he's clearly not.
Yeah. I hope he can leave. He can take that narrative with him if he'd like. If he would like to move on saying that he did actually win, that's fine with me, as long as he vacates the premises when he needs to. Like, if he wants to keep that narrative, go for it. Say you won. Technically you won, sure. But if you lose, I just hope that someone will be like, sir, keep your dignity intact and move on as you should from this situation.
But he's never had any dignity. Right. That's the problem. Like, he's never had that.
He's going to call on the masses to say, well, no, I need to be in here, and I need you peons to go out there and do my dirty work, and, make sure I can't leave this White House. I mean, I just feel like there's going to be an even bigger wall. Like, somehow, some way, he's going to not want to leave the White House, like kicking and screaming, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. And maybe it might work out in our favor. I wrote a little blog on WordPress called All Votes Matter. And it kind of was like, like you hear people who say, oh, well, I'm tired of these, this two-party system. Well, you didn't vote for the third party in your local election. So how did you think that they were going to get up to the Senate and get up to the presidency? So maybe with people voting this election, if Trump does win, I'm hoping that the local and county elections get swung, a different way. So then that way his power isn't so great as it is right now, hopefully. But we'll see. I don't know. It's definitely scary. Like if people, and I don't know how many people know, but if people just vote for the president and don't vote, like if they just say, I want Trump, and they don't vote for anybody else in the Republican Party as far as their local elections, then maybe that might work out in our favor, hopefully.
Yeah, that's actually in the last 7 minutes here, I want to cover a few of the other stories that aren't getting widespread coverage in the media, because they're not as sexy. They're kind of wonky stories, but so one of the things is the Supreme Court ruling 4-4 over Pennsylvania's election rule change, which for those who don't know, Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that the election offices can accept and count ballots that were received up to 3 days after the close of the polls, so long as those mail-in ballots are postmarked by the date of the election. This is to account for any delays in mail, also to allow people to vote by mail on election day, which is important. Being able to hold your vote till election day, for some people, some people haven't made up their minds, and for what it's worth, things could wildly change. A candidate can die while they're a candidate. People, there could be some, October surprise that is an actual October surprise, not this bullshit about Biden's son's laptops, hard drive, whatever, trying to create butthurt emails for this year.
That's my god!
Right.
And you see what we did? I can't tell you better on the email. Do you see?
Actually, you can also have people that go to the polls and all of a sudden they're told that they're not registered when they really are.
Do you know how often I have been checking my registration? It has gotten like
obsessed with it.
I'm so scared. I did again yesterday just in case. I was like, let me check. I've checked the website a number of times. I've called them just like to make sure. I'm scared. I feel like anything could happen. Like I feel like there's so many nefarious like entities that like I could get there and I'll be like, no, and I'll be like, but I called and emailed every day for like a month and they said it was fine. Like I don't want any problems.
So but even assuming, so there's a problem here that people aren't latching onto in popular media, which is the Supreme Court even taking up that case is of questionable authority, because one of the aspects of the United States election system is that all elections are local. They're all locally controlled, and there is no national law around how elections are run. And the reason that and the reason that's a good thing is because with all local control, it's much harder to impact a national election because you have to change rules everywhere all of a sudden, and that's just really hard to do. That's really hard to, we can't even get 100% of people wearing masks in the middle of the pandemic, so
so we know that's not going to happen, right?
so getting the Supreme Court even weighing in on this is problematic, because if they make a ruling and it was 4-4, that's effing scary. They put one more sympathetic judge on the court, and now it's a 5-4. And suddenly we now have a national ruling on the validity of ballots mailed in on election day. That's scary. That's very troublesome, and they should not, if they were doing their job, if they were actually originalists like they claim to be, they should not have even taken up the case. They should have said, no, this is a state matter. The state Supreme Court's ruling, is what it is. So that's one wonky, scary thing, at least from my perspective. I don't know how you all feel about it, but that's troublesome.
Because anything that is happening right now is
scary.
For this purpose. Like, anyone trying to do anything around voting right now, I feel like is just it's a problem. Like, right. It is just, yeah. And I mean, and we're looking at, like, you would imagine that at least for this election in particular, as we manage a pandemic and not wanting people coming together in large groups and standing next to each other for a long time, that, like, all hands would have been on deck for mail-in voting, for whatever we have to do to minimize people getting close to each other in one day all at the same time. Like, we are in a pandemic, like, and there is an already established that people can vote without having to come in contact with other humans in this pandemic. Like, anything that is trying to, like, attack that system right now is just, it's nefarious.
The humans that are leading this country and who are living here don't get that concept. Like, this has already been something that is established. Absentee ballots are not, like, brand new for this election. It didn't just come out of nowhere. Right.
The year that they're like,
So but they're also trying to flip it. They're also trying to say, the people who are against masks, they're trying to say, well, if you can go to Walmart and Target, you can go to the voting polls. And I'm like, shit, I don't even want to go to Walmart and Target when there's a whole bunch of people in there. Like, like, I order my stuff online and go there and pick it up. I just flew for the first time in, like,
I just flew for the first time in, like, 9 months.
Delivery. Like, I don't know.
Right. And I don't know about their Walmarts, but my Walmart's a super Walmart. So that's where I get food. Like, I have to get food from somewhere. Like, there's, like, I don't know. Like, it's just, our educational system needs work. I don't even know what else to say.
One other wonky thing I want to cover just in the last, we're at about time, but I just want to cover this and get you guys' opinions on it. I'm not sure how I come down on this one, to be honest. There's a story, part of the New York Times investigative reporting on the taxes of one Donald J. Trump, is that there's a company that was established in China just before the election, and it is owned by one Donald J. Trump, and it existed about 3 years before the election, and then just after the election, it took in $50 million or something like that. And it has a Chinese bank account, and it appears to be owned by the Trump organization. And so, like, there's... Here's the problem with October surprises. Like, there's no time to really delve into this. I don't know. The reason I don't know how I come down on this is I don't know how accurate this is. I don't know if in a week we'll be hearing, oh, well, like, that was actually a legit organization, or it didn't even have anything to do with Trump. So,
but knowing his track record, I actually feel like it's his company. Like, I feel like anything that, and it's weird to feel like this now, anything that sounds crazy probably is true at this point. and it's really hard to get a company in China. Like it's really, really hard. Like it's not, just somewhere that you go. And we know his business dealings with a lot of countries. Yeah, I don't know. And being how he's talked down to them since the pandemic started, who knows of what that company is structured like right now. But before, I totally, if it was 3 years before election, yeah, it's probably his company. He probably runs it. He knew about it in some way, shape, or form.
Well, the big election wise news is no bigger than any of the other quote unquote bombshells that are coming out right now. Basically, he did something illegal again, which is he didn't disclose that company or the money that.
That is a thing that, like, so I have a friend who works for the federal government, right? And she was telling me about how she almost didn't get her job because of her credit. And because that, like, her credit score and her debt was too high. And so she almost didn't get a job in the federal government. I also had to, like, talk to someone about her. Like, I got, like, she had, like, reference checks and all of these things. And I'm just like, why aren't we at bare minimum doing what we do for other federal employees for the president of the United States? Like, why do we not know who he owes money to, what his companies are? Like, all of that should be a part of the vetting of a potential president.
All this money laundering.
Yeah, if a regular federal employee can almost not get their job because of their credit, but his taxes have just come out 4 years into his run as president. Come on.
Like, people in regular jobs get vetted way more than that. Like, they asked for my credit score, like, because they don't want to give you a business card if you can't even pay your own bills. Where my brother works at the nuclear power plant, like, they do a background check and they check, like, your childhood friends, and they're calling people. And I'm like, dude, I'm glad you got this job already. But he got a job. He got called because someone applied at his work, and they did a background check of his childhood friends. And my brother happened to be a childhood friend. So yeah, I don't even know, like, and that's not even a federal job. Like, I don't know I mean, okay, well, white collar crimes, we all know, it's like they find ways, legal ways, or maybe some illegal ways of hiding their money on offshore accounts. And some places, it's so secretive that, how could they have found this out?
Well, just remember that there was an extensive report on, hundreds of billionaires and their illegal offshore tax havens and tax avoidance schemes, and that literally nothing happened.
Right.
So.
Right.
And those included some popular people like, the stars of Harry Potter, and also included politicians and whatever else. But there are definitely two systems, one for all us plebes.
One for regular people and one for them.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you guys. I'd like to thank anybody who's watching, and really appreciate you joining us for the Coffee Break Chat. It's 8:05 a.m. on the West Coast, which makes it 11:05 a.m. on the East Coast. So please join us again next week. I will post about our special guest, and I really thank you, Ms. Miller-White and Ms. Brown-Lewis, for joining me today. And we'll talk again soon. I know. I welcome LaNeshe. I welcome you to come back on the Coffee Break Chat anytime you like. Anytime you have anything to promote, or even if you just want to chat. I love talking. We talk politics a lot on this, so I love talking politics. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Feel free to tune in again next Wednesday. Like, share, and subscribe. We're on YouTube and Facebook, Light Thief Productions. We're on Twitch and Mob Crush as well. And Periscope. So Twitter via Periscope. Light Thief Productions on there as well. Tune again. And please support independent media. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/LightThiefProductions. New stretch goal, $4,000 a month in total pledges. We're going to, Light Thief Productions is going to create a independent print media production here in Philadelphia. And it's going to be a progressive voices, black voices production. So, yeah, donate to that if you'd like to see more progressive media in Philadelphia. It's actually in direct response to losing one of our progressive media in the form of Philadelphia Weekly. But so we'll talk more about that.
You have to have me on again to talk just about that.
Yeah, we're all in. We're all of the folks on the chat right now are heavily involved in local media, and so we all have been in or written about or talked in or interviewed with Philadelphia Weekly before, and so it's a thing. We're worried. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to stop the stream now. So tune in next week and hope to see you then.
All right. Bye.